Project community. It's so great to be here with you again. Thank you so much, everyone, for submitting questions for this Q&A session today. I'm super excited to dive in. Hope this is going to be really helpful for you guys. Again, for those of you who may not know me, my name is meg.e.fine, and I work with young professionals who feel like there's got to be more to life than the daily grind. And I help them find happiness and fulfillment without quitting their jobs or giving up on their professional goals. At the end of the day, the bill's got to get paid, right? So awesome. So I'm super excited to dive in. I'm just going to go ahead and read a question to you and then respond, and I will be super excited to hear your feedback at the end of this. So question number one is, I'm frustrated with this world. I'm smart, I'm hardworking, passionate about creating impact, but they won't hire me. How can I deal with my frustration without being harsh on myself or angry at the world? So first of all, this is a great question. This is something that all of us experience, whether we are job searching or trying to meet another goal in our lives, right? We feel like we've done all the right things and we're not there, and it's frustrating. And we tend to internalize that and to be hard on ourselves and sometimes angry with the world. So one of the things that I find the most helpful for dealing with this type of frustration, this anger, this sort of feeling of helplessness, is having a healthy acknowledgement practice. And so what I mean by that is actually starting to give yourself credit for the things you are doing, for the things you have accomplished, for the ways that you are enough. So I'll talk about that in a second, but a lot of us are actually more familiar with the opposite of having a healthy acknowledgement practice. We are often in downward spirals, right? We have something go wrong in our lives, and immediately our mind floods with the 10 other things that didn't go right, and we start beating ourselves up, and we feel de-energized and demotivated. And it actually becomes a lot harder to reach our goals when we're in that place. And so a healthy acknowledgement practice kind of flips that on its head. So instead of being hard on ourselves, we actually give ourselves credit for everything we have done. This is actually how I start every single session that I have with a client, is what's going well? Like, what can we celebrate? It's actually demonstrated to help you reach your goals faster, because when you acknowledge yourself for what you are doing, for the things you have accomplished, for the ways that you are enough, you actually have more energy and more motivation, and you end up hitting your goals that much faster. This is also why it can be really helpful to work with a coach if you're feeling this way, because sometimes we need that third-party perspective to help us see like all the things that are going right for us, all the ways that like life is pretty good, all the things that we do have to give ourselves credit for, allow ourselves to celebrate what we have accomplished. And a coach can also help you stay on track and not go into those downward spirals in the first place. It's really easy to do. We've all done it. We've all been there. But we know that consistency is key in meeting our goals. And so having a coach who's going to keep you accountable, provide that support, can help you get there much faster. So one healthy acknowledgement practice, one thing that I do every single night, is a journaling practice. And I'd recommend that you give this a try and see how it works for you. So what I do is I write 3 sentences every night in my journal, and they have 3 sentence starter prompts. So the first is, I am grateful for. So I am grateful for my health right now. I am grateful for my apartment, my roommates. I live with great people. I am grateful for. You fill in the blank for you. Second sentence is, what I did right today. Here's where the acknowledgement comes in. What I did right today. And so this could be me getting something done that's going to move the needle forward in my business. It could be doing something nice for my boyfriend. It could be anything, right? But it's something that I'm giving myself credit for doing today, what I did right today. And then the third prompt is what I'd like to attract. And this is opening yourself up to what you'd like to bring into your life. A lot of time we're really focused on our pain points. We're focused on all the things that we don't want. But what can happen is that we end up getting more of that because we're so focused on it. So we want to flip that focus to what we do want in our lives, what we do want to attract. So those 3 sentence starters are, I'm grateful for, what I did right today was, and what I'd like to attract is. And this is an amazing practice. It seems simple. It seems like, what difference will that make? Give it a try. Let me know. Let me know what difference it makes. Okay, so question number 2. How do I move away from internalizing job market rejections? So feeling worthless, unaccomplished, unqualified. So this question, I would reiterate, super important to have a healthy acknowledgement practice, right? One of the things that does is it actually shows us the ways we are enough, the ways we are doing enough, and helps to reinforce that on a daily basis, because most of us just have not been taught that. We have been taught to think the other way through our whole lives, all the things we're not doing, all the ways we're not enough. So that's number 1. But number 2 would be just to start to connect to your own self-worth. Like, what do you like about yourself? What makes you special, unique? What are the things, the qualities about you that, regardless of your accomplishments, like, no one can take those away from you? And one of the best things, one of the greatest gifts for me of leaving the corporate world, leaving my job as a project manager and venturing off on my own to start my business, was that all of a sudden I had to figure out where my worth was derived, if not in my fancy title and my paycheck. And that's like a real reckoning for a lot of us, right? Because we are so aligned with our jobs. It's the first thing people ask us about ourselves. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? As if that's equivalent to who are you? It's not, right? So your worth is inherent, right, in who you are as a human being. And it's so important to tap into that on a daily basis and know that nothing you're doing or not doing can take away your worthiness as a human. And this actually ties back to what I talked about in my first video, this idea of having a growth versus a fixed mindset. So when we have a fixed mindset, again, that mindset that intelligence and ability and talent is just fixed. It's set, it can't be changed. What happens is that we internalize these external things that happen to us, right? So we want to start to shift that, right? We want to shift that to a growth mindset. And a growth mindset means that people believe that intelligence and abilities can be developed over time, right? With effort. And when we have a growth mindset, when we fail at things or we make mistakes, we don't internalize them, but we recognize that that is part of the process of getting to where we want to go. That failure is literally always part of the journey to success. And we know that success doesn't look like this gentle upward slope. It's really like this zigzag that trends upward over time, which means that sometimes we're going to be in those valleys. We're going to feel like we're moving backward. We're going to feel like we're not doing all the things we need to be doing or not making progress. But really, if you zoom out and look at the big picture, you're just in a down, you're going to go back up, and you're going to get where you want to go over time if you stay the course. And having a growth mindset can help you stay the course. It can help you not internalize when bad things happen or when things go wrong. It's all just part of the process of getting where you want to go. I will also add to this, having a growth mindset means that we can think of job searching like a skill that we can actually get better at. And if it's your first time job searching, you may not have experienced this yet. So I'll speak to my experience a little bit. When I did my last job search, this was well before obviously becoming a coach, I went through 11 interviews, a batch of 11 interviews in the first couple weeks of my search. 0 offers. Rough. And just a few weeks later, another 20 interviews later or something, I got 4 offers in the same week and a $20,000 raise. So in a matter of weeks, I just got better at job searching. I got better at interviewing. I got more comfortable talking to people. I got more comfortable talking about myself. And that energy that I brought just changed and actually changed the results that I got. So if you can have a growth mindset about what you're going through, that yeah, it's tough right now. If you didn't get that interview, you didn't get that offer, but it's all part of the process of getting you where you're really meant to be. It can make the process just so much easier and help you avoid internalizing what feel like failures or mistakes along the way when they're really just a part of the journey. Okay, question 3. How do you not compare yourself with other people? For example, peers who got their job offer early, friends who got offered their dream job on the first try, people who got offers even though they didn't seem to be doing as much as you. Yeah. So this is a great question. And the reason we feel this way is a function of how our minds work. And our minds work actually not in terms of absolutes, but in terms of reference points. And let me explain what I mean by that. So social comparison influences our happiness a ton. So there's a study done on Olympic medalists. And if you were to look at the gold, silver, and bronze medalists and ask who's the happiest, right? We probably all assume the gold medalist is the happiest. Cool, that's fair. But if our mind were to think in terms of absolutes, the silver medalist should be the second happiest and the bronze medalist should be the third happiest, right? Not how it turns out. So in reality, the bronze medalists are freaking stoked. And why is that? Is because their reference point is, oh my God, I almost didn't make it onto this podium. Like I could have very well not medaled at all. And so they are so thrilled about just getting up there on the podium, getting their medal, achieving that, right? Silver medalists, on the other hand, are up there on the podium being like, oh my freaking God, if I had been a half second faster, if I had done this a little differently, if I trained a little more, I could have been a gold medalist, right? Their reference point is the gold medalist, and that makes them less happy. So I bring up this example just to say that our happiness levels are determined by our reference point, by the things that we're looking at around us. And often we don't have a very good filter for what's a reasonable reference point. We just kind of take in whatever we have going on. So the reality is that most of us are doing a whole lot better than we give ourselves credit for, but we're not focused on that. We're focused on all the ways that we are not enough, and therefore we go out in the world and we start to collect more evidence of that, right? Of that friend who got the dream job on the first try, or this person didn't seem to be doing as much as me. But that's the reference point that you bring in, and then you judge yourself relative to that. Your happiness level is determined relative to that. So in terms of jobs, this also impacts our satisfaction at work. It impacts our job satisfaction. It impacts our satisfaction with our salary levels. So there have been studies shown that if you ask someone who's making $30,000, how much money do you need to make to live your dream life, have things just be super great? People making $30,000 will say, I need $50,000. But if you ask people making $100,000 how much they need to make, what do you think they say? They're like, yeah, I need $250. I'll be good at $250. So what they found is that with every dollar that our actual salary increases, our desired salary, what we think we'll be happy with, goes up by $1.40. So it's literally a game that we can never win. And this also applies when we look at our coworkers, right? So when we look around us, as your coworkers' income goes up relative to your own, your job satisfaction goes down. Your job satisfaction is not correlated with how much you are making. It's correlated with how much the people around you are making, what you think you should be making. So all to say, actually there's a cool study I want to tell you about with that. So if you ask people, I'm gonna give you two job options, okay? Job option one, you can make $50,000 and your coworkers are all going to be making $25,000. They're all doing the same job as you. You're making 50, they're making 25. Or you can take a job that pays $100,000, but all your coworkers are going to be making $250,000. You're doing the same work, but you're making 100. Half the people in this study say they'd rather make $50,000, right? Again, face value, this is crazy. Do you want to make $50,000 or $100,000? If I asked you that straight up, you'd obviously choose 100. But in this case, people are choosing based on their reference points because we know that that actually impacts our happiness. So what we need to do about this is actually start to shift our reference points. So instead of comparing ourselves to other people, we can start to look at our things in our own life. And one tactical strategy for this is going back and re-experiencing old reference points. Remember when you wanted what you now have? Because at some point where you are now was the goal, right? To, graduate college, graduate grad school, have that degree. It was oh, if I just get to that point, I'll be happy, right? So go back to when you were somewhere not quite as far along as you are now, and re-experience what that was like. That can help you appreciate where you are, appreciate your present state as the solution to something you previously wanted, and see it as part of this journey. And another thing you can do is find a reference point that's not as good as yours, right? So somebody who is job searching and is in a way tighter financial situation, or has been job searching way longer than you, or doesn't have the degree that you have and is still trying to go after things. Whatever it is, just you can imagine, this doesn't have to be a real person, but you can imagine this other reference point and imagine what that might be like. And what that will do is actually help you feel some gratitude for where you are. So this is how we stop comparing ourselves to other people. When we recognize, like, we never have the full picture of other people. Those reference points that we're taking in are just not the right reference points. And, we can shift those. We can choose different reference points to help change how we're thinking about our own situation. Next question is, any advice on how to deal with the general fatigue and burnout of looking for a job in the midst of a recession or a pandemic? Yeah, so 2 thoughts on this. So the first thing is create a routine. A routine is critical to not feeling burnt out. And this means that you are setting like working hours for yourself. You are being consistent. You are not erratically job searching when you feel motivated, like when you feel like it. Because what that does is it lets the job search seep into every area of your life. It's pervasive. It's all the time. It's all you're ever thinking about. So you need a routine. So whether that's like 9 a.m., I start this, I reach out to X number of people, I submit this number of applications, whatever that is, you create a routine so it's a system, so you do it every day, and then you evaluate the results that you get, right? So if you reached out to this many people this week and you only got one person to respond, double it next week, right? Or if you submitted this number of applications and you got this number of interviews and you want more, increase, right? Input, output, like systematize these things so you're not just like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, but you actually have a routine around it. And then when you're done at the end of the day, you shut off, you decompress, you go do things that you enjoy in your life, because your whole life is not this job search. It's not. There's so much more. It's an important part, but it's not everything. And it's so important to have those really firm boundaries. So second piece of this is, in that personal time, create a nourishment menu. And a nourishment menu is a menu of things that give you energy, that make you feel good, that nourish your spirit, right? So for me, these things might be making a green smoothie. It could be like going for a walk. It could be working out. It could be reading a book, making a cup of tea, whatever it is for you, like these things that just like make you feel good, that they're an end in themselves, right? And I want you to actually make a list, like literally write these things down. And the reason that that is so helpful is because when we're in these times of exhaustion, depletion, overwhelm, and we need to recharge, it's really hard to generate that list in our brains and be like, oh, what do I want to do right now? But if we have it literally in front of us, like on a piece of paper, tacked to the wall, on our desks or something, all we have to do is just pick something off that menu and just do it, and we're gonna feel better afterward. So those are the 2 things for dealing with fatigue and burnout while job searching. 1, routine, super important. 2, nourishment menu. It will help you so much. Seems so simple to write the things down, but it makes such a difference in the moment when you really need to recharge. All right, next question. I thought I had landed my dream job. I even moved to a different country for this job, but after a while, life has not turned out the way I imagined. My job has become a major source of stress for me, and work from home plus being in a new country definitely does not help. I feel trapped. I can't quit my job just yet, so what can I do to make myself feel better? Okay, so before we dive into this question, I actually just want to point out that this is a great example of how the things that we think will make us happy aren't always the things that do make us happy. And when we have those reference points of like that person who got their dream job on the first try, they might not be as happy as you think, right? So all of this info that we're getting is not actually all that accurate all the time. So for this question, so this doesn't mean that you shouldn't chase your dream job or you shouldn't go after what you want in your professional life, but it just means that it shouldn't be the sole place that you find fulfillment. Again, this would be a great opportunity for this person who's kind of feeling stuck in this job at the moment. Great opportunity to work with a coach to build a more nourishing routine. So you're finding fulfillment outside of work and also inside of work, right? Even if you're not in your dream job, there are a lot of things you can do to move the needle for yourself on your happiness in your day-to-day. And you can be doing those things concurrently with planning your next steps. And that's absolutely what I would recommend to be doing. So at your job, one of the things that's super important to do is to find the things that you actually like about your job. And just a little hint, these are the things that put you in a state of flow. You probably are familiar with this concept of flow, but it's like you're in the zone, like things are going, time's passing, and you don't even realize it. And typically after you do these activities, you feel more energized after doing them than you did before. So sometimes like the things you think you like, again, like might be like the easy, monotonous tasks. They're not actually the things that are making you happy. Like flow is a state of typically high challenge and high skill. So you're applying yourself, but you also feel capable of addressing the task at hand. So as much as possible, trying to figure out what are those things that put you in flow, and then incorporating as much of that into your job as you can. Super important. And then outside of work, really important to create some habits that actually separate your work life and your personal life. For some people that like, especially working from home, I've worked with a lot of clients to like create a routine of like the work day is over. I am now in my personal space. Like my computer is closed. Maybe I go for a walk to let my brain kind of simmer down, or I do a 10-minute meditation, or I do a journaling activity, but something that actually marks a transition from work time to personal time. And then just prioritize the things that bring you joy outside of work, right? We are so good at prioritizing work. We love to be in this like workaholic culture of like, oh, I'll do this, I got it. We spend so much time prioritizing that, and we spend very little time prioritizing our happiness, our joy, like the activities that bring us energy, make us feel good, make us feel alive. So start to give as much attention to those as you do to your work, right? Like, how are you getting those on your calendar? What are those things for you? Spend some time thinking about it, and start to shift that for you. And that will make a big difference in your whole experience of your life, not just being your job. Okay, last question here. How do you deal with the compromise of choosing a job that you're not passionate about? Okay, so this is a tough one. I know for a lot of you, for the industry that you're in, you often need to take a job that's going to give you 3 to 5 years, maybe more experience in order to get the job that you actually want to land. So the reality is, like, sometimes you're going to be in a job that isn't your number one choice, maybe. So the important thing about that is to really view that job as a stepping stone on the path to what you ultimately want. So instead of feeling like a compromise, like, oh, this sucks, I don't want to do this, you get to celebrate that as a step in the right direction. Like, yep, here I am working toward what I want, working toward the experience I want to have in my life. And just to recognize that by getting that first job, like, the universe is actually delivering to you everything you need to get where you want to go. And then the other part of this is the number one question that I want my clients to be asking themselves is, what experience do I want to be having of my one and only life? So there's a lot of power in this question, because regardless of what's going on around us, regardless of the external circumstances of our lives, we always have the power to choose our experience. And that can feel like a little bit of tough love, but there's truly no downside to taking responsibility for the experience you're having of your own life. So if you're in this job that you know, is a stepping stone on where the path to where you really want to go, to ultimately determine for yourself the experience that you're going to have of that. And so part of that was this mindset shift of really thinking of it as the stepping stone, as like, oh my gosh, I'm getting exactly what I need to go where I want to go. But the other thing is, again, actually kind of going back to our last question, what we know is that happiness at work is really determined by two things. It really comes down to two things. One is, how often are you in that state of flow, that state of having more energy than you did before you did a task and feeling challenged, but also equipped to tackle the challenge. But then also how often you are using your signature strengths. So this is a whole other concept. I don't want to dive too deeply into it today, but you can go check out VIA. I think it's called Virtues in Action. There's a quiz you can do there to figure out what your signature strengths are, and you want to be applying those strengths in your day-to-day at work, because that is actually what's going to bring you happiness in your day-to-day. And then again, going back to building happiness outside of work, so important, something we just don't focus on. We're too tired at the end of the day, we eat some dinner, we put on Netflix, we go to bed, we do it all over again. Guys, come on, let's not do that for the next 40 years, please. Let's figure out how to be happy. So one of the things that I actually teach my clients in my coaching program is 7 happiness habits that are scientifically proven to move the needle on your happiness. These are things that are not related to your job. These are things you're doing outside of your job. None of them require you to be in the right job, but they actually help increase happiness, make life more enjoyable, increase your capacity for joy and aliveness, right? So there are things that you can be doing outside of work. Yeah, the most important thing here, though, is just empowering yourself to believe that you can have what you want. Because the people who have what they want and people who have what you want, right? When you're looking at those people like, oh my God, how did you do it? The first step was just believing that you can have it, right? Believing is the first step, right? That is step number 1, right? Because if you don't believe that, you're not going to follow through on the action needed to get there. And then that is step 2, is just being willing to stay the course to get to where you want to go. So again, for a lot of you, this first job is going to be a stepping stone in the direction of what you want, and you need to celebrate it as that, right? And be willing to stay the course to get to where you're gonna go, and then build that happiness outside of work too. Okay, I threw a lot at you today. I hope this has been helpful. I'm super excited to hear your feedback. If you have found this session helpful, and or you're still feeling stuck and you have questions for me and you want to do a deeper dive into what's going on for you personally, again, I'm offering a limited number of coaching sessions. These are free 60-minute one-on-one sessions for the Reproject community. So in this session, what we'll do is a deep dive into where you are feeling stuck, what's going on for you, and how can we start to shift that experience so you can get closer to what you actually want to have. So again, if you're interested in that, there's a link below this video, calendly.com/coachedbymegan, and you can go ahead and sign up there. So thank you again for being here today, for watching. It's been a pleasure to do this. I love sharing this information. It has changed my life. It has changed my experience. It has changed the experience of so many clients that I've worked with, and I obviously love it. That's coming through, and I really hope that it's been helpful for you. So I'm so excited to see some of you in those free sessions. My info, all my social accounts should also be below this video. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to be a resource. So thanks again for being here, everybody, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.